This is the key for the study guide for CFA 10. There are, I think, 16 problems on here that you needed to do. So if you're number 1, write a situation that could be represented by the integer -14. Explain and defend your situation. So like if you say it's 14 degrees below 0, why does this work? Because below 0 means -14. If you say she spent $14 in avocados, so you're spending money, that's why it's -14. If you say she hiked 14 feet below sea level, the word below shows the -14. So any of these would be a situation for -14. Graph the integer -6 and its opposite on the number line. You would need to put a dot at -6. You would also need to put a dot at +6. If you can see that on the number line, they are on the number line, they are not above it. Correctly fill out the table by naming the integer and represent the situation. Tell what 0 would represent in the situation. If Annie made $435 at her job, the integer would be a positive 435. 0 in this situation means she doesn't earn or lose any money. If Ronaldo lost 11 pounds last summer, then you would put a -11 for the integer because he lost the weight. 0 pounds, he doesn't lose or gain any weight. What is the opposite of 0? Should be 0. State whether these numbers are on the same side or opposite sides of 0 and defend why. -3.2 and 3 1/4. They are on opposites of 0. One is a negative number and one is a positive number. Jennifer needs to graph -7 3/4 on a horizontal number line. Should she graph it to the left or the right of -7? Defend why. It would be to the left because it is less than -7, so it's further to the left. If you had to graph this, some people could see, like if you were graphing this, to think about like where would the +7? +7 would be like here, and then 7 3/4 would be here, and then you would get closer to 8. Well, the opposite would be like -7 and then -7 3/4, and then having -8. So that's a good way to show that -7 3/4 would be to the left of -7. It's further to the left. The temperature yesterday reached a low of -6.5 degrees. Between what two integers was this temperature? Remember, integers are whole numbers and their opposites. They're not decimals or fractions. So when they give you -6.5, you have to think about which two integers is it between. And it's between -6 and -7. Kind of like if I gave you a positive 6.5, you would think, oh, between 6 and 7, a positive 6.5 would be right here. So a -6 and a -7, the -6.5 would be in the middle of it there. Zach graphed a point by starting at the origin. So since you're graphing, I would quickly draw an order or a coordinate plane here. He starts at the origin, which is right here in the middle. He moves to the right, and then he moves down to plot a point. So which of these could he have graphed? He could have graphed a +2 and then -5. And that would help you on that one. Number 8, you have this trapezoid shape. It's reflected over the x-axis, which is this one right here. Which statement is true about point C and its reflection G? The y-coordinate of G is opposite of the y-coordinate C. So you're looking at G and C. So like if I went over 2 and up 8, 2, 8 is what C would be. But this would be 2 and then -8 for G. What do they mean by the y-coordinate? This is your x, this is your y. So your y-coordinate was at 8, and now it's at -8. That's what they're talking about with this particular point. Which point best represents the ordered pair -3, 4? -3 up 4 would be point C. What quadrant is that point located in? This is quadrant 2. Remember, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that would be quadrant 2. Which point on the number line represents 1.25? Well, you have to kind of figure out how this number line goes. This is 0, this is half, this is 1. So like you either have to decide, are you going to label these by decimals, by fractions, or both? So this would be like 1/4 or 0.25, and this would be 0.5. This would be 3/4 or 0.75. Here's 1. This would be 1 1/4 or 1.25. So if you looked at labeling it as fractions or as decimals to help you see that one, it's kind of hard to see that in pencil. That would be point B right there. Robert recorded the temperature outside his house in this table. Let me see if that helps with light. 4 p.m. it's 15 degrees, and then 6 a.m. is -7. He claims the difference between the temperatures is 8 degrees between these two. Part A, explain why Robert's claim is incorrect. He thought the -7 was maybe just a +7, thinking, oh, there's just a difference of 8. But the correct difference in temperatures, well, he was at 15 above and 7 below. So you would have to add those two together. That's a distance of 22 degrees Fahrenheit. How could I show that on a number line? Well, he was at 15 above, and then this would be 0, and then this would be -7. So it's like 15 just to get to here, and then another 7 just to get to here. So you'd have to add these two together, and that's where you get the total of 22 degrees Fahrenheit was the difference in temperature. Write one number into each box to create 3 true mathematical statements. Use each number once. So you have to put the absolute value of -7, which would just equal 7, is equal to 7. That's the only one that would fit right here for equal to, because you'd have to use the absolute value so that you have 2 positive 7s. So that now you've used your 7s. -6 is less than the absolute value of -2, so that would be like -6 is less than 2. -3 is greater than -5. So it's just a matter of making sure that these statements are all true. The table below shows the average elevation of the 3 oceans. Which ocean has the greater depth? The Pacific Ocean goes the furthest into the negatives. What is the difference of depth between the shallowest ocean and the deepest ocean? So it's like looking at the difference of depth between the Pacific and the Arctic. And you kind of have to take their absolute values to show their differences. So when you're looking at the differences between them, it's 3,350 meters. You cannot say that their distance between them, the difference is a negative number. You have to make sure this is a positive number. Distances between cannot be negative. Put the oceans in order from deepest to shallowest. The deepest is the Pacific Ocean, and then the Atlantic would be the next deepest, and then the Arctic would be like the shallowest ocean. Plot the following points, then find the distance between each pair of points. 2, -5, so over 2, down 5, I put a dot, and then at 2, and then I did -1 right there. So the distance between them, you can see I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and the space is the distance between those is 4. Don't mind this right now. This is something else. -3, up 3, and then -3, down 2. And the distance between these 2 points is 5. You can see how I counted those 5 units there. I actually answered question 16. I used this graph to help me. What's the distance between the points 2, 2, and 2, -3? And I drew it on there. Over 2, up 2, and then over 2, down to 3. And that was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the distance between these 2 points. I was counting in the boxes going this way, but I could have counted down here. The distance is 5 units between them. So I was just using this graph to show those distances. Summit County is a rectangle. So on the map, they give you the vertices to put all these in. Each unit on the map represents 2 miles. So what's the county's perimeter? So you'd have to plot these in the correct spots. And then as you're counting here, let's see, you've got the perimeter, so you'd have to count. I'm trying to see here what I got. Oh, I've got a distance of 5 from these points, and then I counted the distance going down, which is also 5. So I know that if I do perimeter, there's 4 sides, and each side is worth 5. So I did 5 times 4 for 20 miles, but you need to times it by 2 so that the perimeter is 40 miles. Well, why times it by 2? Because each one represents 2 miles. In perimeter, you have to add up all the sides or know what one side is, which is 5, and then if each one is 5, just take it times 4. So 40 miles would be the perimeter. Don't say squared. That would be like trying to find the area.